Over the past 2 days, I played HeartGold with the Ampharos-line and the Donphan-line, both which underperformed, I would say. So today I want to play the game with a Pokemon that I think is going to be fantastic, the Ursaring-line. It did really well in Generation 2, really only struggling against Red because of its speed stat and lack of ability to set up, at least effectively. But that's not going to be a problem today because both Teddiursa and Ursaring can learn Swords Dance. These are the rules for the solo challenge. Let's go. Teddiursa for base stats has 60 HP, 80 attack, 50 defense, special attack and special defense, and 40 speed. It has a medium fast growth rate, just like Donphan. As a part of this first playthrough series, I'm following some specific rules, so I have a hardy nature, and I'm also not allowed to use hidden power. Just like Phanpy, I went with a Teddiursa that has the ability pickup. This is specifically so when it evolves, it's going to get Guts on Ursaring. I haven't found Guts to be that useful in playthroughs, but a lot of people in the comments keep telling me just how good this ability is, so today we're going to have to see if it finds a place in this run. For movepool, Teddiursa has 5 starting moves, so it isn't going to get Covet, but it starts with Scratch, Leer, Lick, and Fake Tears. Kinda weird that we get Fake Tears to lower special defense when we don't have any special moves. Lick seems like it's going to be useful coverage, and it does hit ghost types, but at only level 15 I get Feint Attack, and that move is just far better. Through level up we get a lot of moves that just won't be useful. Fury Swipes, Sweet Scent, Charm, Snore, Thrash, Fling, but we do get Slash, a high critical hit normal type move, as well as Rest, one of my favorite moves. Through TM and HM, Teddiursa gets some good coverage: Earthquake, Dig, Aerial Ace, Shadow Claw, and Rock Slide. I intentionally left out Bulk Up as well as Brick Break because those moves won't be available until the post game, and basically they won't be available at all in these solo playthroughs because you have to buy them with BP. In this challenge, the rival's going to have the Bayleaf team. I always give him this team whenever I take neutral damage from all of the starters. Bayleaf is just by far the most difficult ace that I can go up against. For the remainder of the early game, Teddiursa doesn't really struggle. It has a really good attack stat for a first stage Pokemon, and getting the same type attack bonus on a move like Scratch allows it to shred through all of the Pokemon in Sprout Tower. The final battle gets a little bit close against Elder Lee because the Hoot Hoot puts me to sleep. This one has Hypnosis, unlike in Pokemon Crystal. Teddiursa does wake up in time to knock out his ace, so now let's move on to Falkner. My Teddiursa is level 13 over a damage rounding threshold, but still Scratch does not do enough damage to one-shot his lead. Luckily it doesn't choose Sand Attack. I knock it out on the next turn and move on to his ace, Pidgeotto. It's doing okay damage every turn with Gust, but on the second turn in battle it gets a critical hit, inflicting massive damage, and then my third Scratch just barely doesn't knock it out. I take one more tackle, Teddiursa survives on 2 hit points and wins against Falkner. Reflecting on this battle, if Falkner was this close, I think that Bugsy might be tricky, so let's do everything I can possibly do to prepare for him. I'm going to grab the Hardstone and then Rock Tomb in Union Cave, which I teach to Teddiursa in the place of Fury Swipes. Now I can do 4 times damage to the Scyther, but still that's not going to make it free. It can choose U-turn and outspeed Teddiursa, switching out and doing massive damage. Essentially, I think the way that I'm going to have to win against Bugsy is with him choosing a move like Leer or Focus Energy on the first turn and then Rock Tomb one-shotting. Anyways, I still have some Rockets to defeat before then. This is the perfect time to mention the abilities on the enemy's teams. For the previous 5 videos in this series, a bunch of the abilities have been incorrect, but now they have all been corrected. Now, as per my Canadian citizenship, I do need to apologize for this mistake, so I'm sorry. I'm just glad we were able to fix it before the end of the year. Alright, now let's take on Bugsy. Scyther is up first. It goes for U-turn, switches out, doing half damage to Teddiursa. That is not good. Metapod is next. I'm gonna knock it out basically for free, but when the Scyther comes back in, if it uses U-turn, I think I just lose. And it goes for U-turn. Teddiursa does survive, but only on 3 hit points. I don't think the Scyther is gonna choose any of its setup moves, Leer or Focus Energy, now that I'm on low health. And it appears that I'm correct because when it comes back out after the Kakuna, it knocks Teddiursa out. I try again. This time it chooses Leer, which is perfect. Rock Tomb connects, and his ace goes down to a single hit as I was expecting. Alright, this battle's easy now. I clean up the cocoons, and then I get to face the rival. Yesterday I had a lot of problems here with Phanpy. The Bayleaf was absolutely awful, but Teddiursa seems to be doing a little bit better. It can one-hit the Ghastly with Feint Attack, and then one-hit the Zubat using Rock Tomb. Bayleaf comes in next. I have Scratch here, which is doing okay damage. Bayleaf poisons me, and then it starts doing the same thing that I experienced yesterday. Once I have the status condition, it can set up Reflect if it really wants to, and then spam Synthesis, healing over and over again until Teddiursa faints, or until it speeds up the process using Razor Leaf. One thing I should start doing in all of these solo challenges is going to the Ruins of Alph before going to Union Cave in order to pick up the Pecha Berry. I think with any Pokemon facing Bayleaf, this is probably the optimal strategy if there is any concern with being able to knock it out. I lose again for a second time and I decided to do some training. I'm going to go up to level 20 over damage rounding threshold and then try this again. While I do have increased damage, it's not going to be the only thing I need to win. I was trying to use Lick to inflict paralysis on the Bayleaf, hopefully cutting the number of turns that it attacks me, but this just doesn't work out and I lose again. I tried one more time and this made me realize that if I lose, I should just take the experience from the Ghastly and the Zubat, Blackout, and try the battle again. By doing this, at least I'm going to level up during the rival fight and eventually I will be able to scrape through past the Bayleaf. I black out over and over and over again, and eventually I paralyze the Bayleaf early on, and this gives me what I need to slowly chip away at it and knock it out before Teddiursa faints. Also, critical hits really help out here. My final hit is one, so the rival's done, let's head into the forest. Here, I get Headbutt, which for all the other Pokemon I've used in this series has been a nice upgrade, but not really critical like it is in Pokemon Crystal. But for Teddiursa, it is the same type attack bonus move, so it's going to be fantastic. In Goldenrod City, of course, I'm going to play a bunch of Voltorb Flip, earn myself 17,000 coins. This allows me to buy tons of useful items. I get a copy of Substitute, Rest, Swords Dance, as well as the Silk Scarf to boost normal type moves, the Wide Lens, and the Metronome. Although these last two items I haven't found to be particularly useful in these solo challenges, I'm just purchasing them by default right now to be a little bit overly safe. I'll weed out these items if I don't find good uses for them in the coming months. Obviously, the major prize here is Swords Dance, and I'm going to teach it in the place of my worst move, Rock Tomb. Yes, I think Rock Tomb is worse than Lick because of its accuracy. I hate Rock Tomb. I'm a little bit salty that it's provided as an answer for Bugsy in this game, forcing me to have to use it, but I guess it's better than nothing. Now, another thing I did just before Voltorb Flip was stopping by the department store and the raffle desk. From that person, I was able to get myself a Shadow Claw TM, so I'm also going to replace Lick with that more powerful Ghost-type move. I give Teddiursa the Silk Scarf to boost the power of normal type moves by 20%, and then I'm ready to face Whitney. Okay, after this battle, I'm going to talk about my expectations for Teddiursa and Ursaring in this playthrough overall. But here, we can see a demonstration of just how good this line can be because it has access to Swords Dance, unlike in Generation 2. Setting up with Swords Dance brings my attack stat up from 50 to 200. Then, with Headbutt and the same type attack bonus, I can one-shot the Clefairy, move on to the Miltank. It does attack first with Stomp, which could endlessly flinch me, but if it doesn't get the secondary effect, as is the case here, I attack with Headbutt and one-shot her ace. Also, actually, just pause here. I want to say this Whitney sprite is actually fantastic. Well done, Game Freak. It looks like she's really upset and throwing a tantrum after the battle. I actually had to rewind a little bit to the beginning of the battle to see what her sprite looks like at the start of the battle, and it does look different. This part that they use at the end of the battle is actually a different frame from the intro animation. Look, here's the intro animation. So at the beginning, she starts off like with the peace sign looking really happy, and then midway through, she goes to this tantrum kind of pose. Anyways, I love it. Well done, Game Freak. Okay, so let's talk about Teddiursa and my prediction for this thing. I think it's going to be fantastic in HeartGold, and I would be really surprised if this line doesn't get the top performance so far. Access to Swords Dance, same type attack bonus return, the Silk Scarf, and good or decent coverage moves like Feint Attack, Shadow Claw, and then everything I'm going to get later into the game seems to set this Pokemon up for success. I think the one thing that Teddiursa might struggle with is speed. And just north of Goldenrod City, I go up against Fire Breather Walt. I'm paralyzed, and here you can see what happens when Teddiursa is not moving first, and when it's not moving consistently. It gets beat up by Ember from these Magmar, goes down to low red health, and it does squeeze through with a victory. But this scenario is the kind of thing in the future I'm not always going to be able to avoid, because I won't always be moving first. So, inside the national park, I'm going to pick up the Quick Claw to give myself a little bit of an advantage in scenarios where I don't have the speed required. Also, there's another useful item here. If I loop all the way around the forest and go through this little break in the fence, I can then loop all the way around again. It takes a lot of walking time here, and pick up the TM for Dig, which of course Teddiursa can learn. In Generation 4 it has 80 base power, so it's pretty good, but I'm not going to teach it right away. I did go into the burned tower, but without Dig, I don't really want to go up against the Magnemite, so for now I'm going to continue to level, going over to the lighthouse. On my way I pick up the PP up in the Miltank pasture, and then before going into the lighthouse I talk to this sign a lot. Yeah, signs are really frustrating in this game because when you bump into them, they immediately show you their dialogue, wasting your time. Not a good change, Game Freak, but you could have done this with like cut trees, that would have been a good change. Like, why did they ask you the question, do you want to cut this tree or do you want to surf every time you press A? I think you should just immediately do the action. That would make the game flow so much better. Is there ever a scenario where you don't want to cut the tree down and that is actually a good play from the player? I don't think there is. After training in the lighthouse, I go back to Burn Tower. My Teddy Ursa is level 29. This is one level before it evolves into Ursaring, but I don't want to backtrack and waste a bunch of time from here, so I'm going to try the rival at this level and hopefully it won't be a problem. Ghastly is first. I outspeed, one-shotting with Shadow Claw. Next is Bayleaf. I use Swords Dance. It chooses Reflect. I use another Swords Dance. It uses Poison Powder, and from here I figured I'd have enough damage. I've taught Slash in the place of Headbutt at this point in the run. I figured the higher chance to crit was probably better than Headbutt's flinch chance, especially with Teddy Ursa's speed being so low, and the fact that I'm holding the Silk Scarf throughout this section of the game. Slash is able to one-shot his lead, and from there the rest of the battle is very simple. Now that Teddy Ursa is level 30, it evolves into Ursaring, getting a major stat increase. Its HP rises by 30 points, its attack by 50, its defense, special defense, and special attack by 25 points, and its speed only by 15, so it has a base stat total of 500. I just wish we could have got some of those special stats in our speed. That really would have helped out. And speaking of speed, after evolving, Ursaring only has 52 speed, so it's not going to move first against Morty's Gengar. First is Ghastly. I one-shot with Shadow Claw. Next he sends in Haunter. Sometimes he chooses the Gengar. Luckily in this case I just used Shadow Claw and it one-shots as well. Gengar comes in next. I was worried about Hypnosis. It puts me to sleep. Then starts using Sucker Punch, which isn't doing much damage. It wastes a turn with Mean Look, goes back to Sucker Punch. I wake up, hit with Shadow Claw, and one-shot. I didn't take my time setting up with Swords Dance here. I figured I would have enough damage by default, but I also didn't want to get hit by Curse. That could have caused this fight to spiral out of control. And the Gengar does not have the volatile status condition move, so I was never scared going up against it unless it knocked me out, but that would have taken a great deal of time. Now with Donphan, I chose to skip Chuck, who's coming up next, but with Ursaring, I'm pretty confident that I can defeat him because I have access to Swords Dance. As I said yesterday, across the sea, I'm going to go on the right hand side and the bottom so that I clear these trainers out to get access to the rare candies without having to battle them later into the run. Okay, time to talk to another sign, one of the most important things to do in Pokemon HeartGold. I have to talk to it twice actually. Okay, now let's head into the gym and face Chuck. First is Primeape. This thing is the whole reason I feel like I'm going to be able to beat Chuck, because I can set up Swords Dance here and then hopefully one-shot the Poliwrath. Primeape goes for double team on the first turn, so I push my setup to +4 and luckily it raises its evasion again. This is perfect because I remember that I have Feint Attack and I can bypass accuracy checks. While this move is not very effective and its power right now is 30, it still does enough damage to knock out his lead in a single turn. Well, it got a critical hit there. Maybe it wouldn't have got the one hit without, but either way I'm moving on to the Poliwrath. It's slow, so much so that Ursaring can move first. I use Slash and one-shot his ace. Okay, time to get some PP items. In Violet City, I'm going to get the PP up. South of the Lake of Rage, I grab the Max Ether, and now I'm ready to take on Price. The fact that Seal is his lead gives me free setup, unless I'm really worried about being hit by Icy Wind and having my speed stat lowered. But for Ursaring, I just don't really care. Also, +2 attack is probably all I need. I one-shot the Seal, one-shot the Piloswine after tanking a Blizzard with great ease. Dugong is last. It goes for Aurora Beam, taking me to around half health, but Slash just one-shots. This was really easy. Jasmine is next, and for this battle I've taught Dig. I need super effective damage against the Magdemites. I'm going to use it right away to knock them out so we don't get hit by Thunder Wave. Then on the Steelix, I use my first turn to set up Swords Dance, increasing my attack. Steelix misses Screech, which is perfect. Without taking any damage from Iron Tail, I use Dig, and it does more than half to her ace. Then you can see she really wants to use Screech, so she lowers my defense stat, giving me another Dig, and with that, her ace goes down, and I earn myself the 7th badge. Okay, one little thing I haven't mentioned about HeartGold is to get into the radio tower, you actually have to get a disguise from the underground. I love this sprite. I wish I could wear this outfit all the time while playing these games. Okay, now let's face Petrol. This is a good opportunity for me to mention the fact that I have now taught Return with the same type attack bonus in the Silk Scarf. Its effective power is 169. Nice. I am essentially going to crush everything in my way for the foreseeable future. So let me just briefly talk about HeartGold and speed interactions, because this is one of the games on the channel that feels like speed is actually a fundamental issue for a bunch of Pokemon. In Emerald version, it really seems like if you have around base 70 or 80 speed, you're never going to move second. You can even use a speed lowering nature just slightly above that threshold. If your Pokemon's under 50 speed, then maybe you want to use a speed raising nature, like when I used Camerupt in November, but overall speed is just not that important. But in Yellow version, speed is very important. In Fire Red, Lance's team exclusively forces you to have fast Pokemon because he has an Aerodactyl and it's very quick. And now in HeartGold, this is the first time that there are many major battles in the late game where fast Pokemon are a common occurrence. So unlike in Crystal version, speed is not just important against Red. So right now I want all of us to take a moment and think, which trainer coming up is going to cause the most problems for Ursaring exclusively because of speed? Okay, so take a moment to think about this while I battle the rival. And whoops, just before him I intended to save, but I accidentally kept pressing the D-pad for a little bit too long and ran into the encounter anyways. So if I lose here, I guess I have to black out, or I'm gonna have to reset before Petrol and lose a bunch of time. This is not a great scenario, but the rival should be fine. Right? I'm not really having speed problems here because Ursaring has 74, which moves first against all of his Pokemon except the Sneasel, and the Sneasel is terrible. One issue is that I set up Swords Dance against the Golbat and I did get confused, so I do massive damage to myself against the Meganium. It sets up Reflect, but Return is still able to one-shot. I got really scared here because Ursaring once again hits itself on the Magnemite, going down to 12 hit points. Magnemite uses Thunder Wave, paralyzing me. I don't have the Quick Claw. Luckily though, the Magnemite's Sonic Boom misses, Ursaring snaps out of confusion, hits with Return, and the Steel type faints. Okay, am I going to be able to make it by the Haunter and the Sneasel? I just don't think that that's realistic. Sneasel comes out next, it chooses Quick Attack, does damage, and Ursaring survives on 1 hit point. Paralysis does not prevent me from using Return, and Sneasel faints. Okay, so only Haunter is left. Look at its move pool. Confuse Ray, Mean Look, Curse, and Shadow Ball. It cannot attack a normal type Pokemon. The only way it can do damage is with Curse. So if Paralysis does not prevent my attack, I should win. Haunter goes for Curse, Moment of Truth, Paralysis does not prevent my attack, and Ursaring pulls through. Okay, I'm breathing a huge sigh of relief right now. I did not have to black out against the rival. Let's continue with this run. Now, speaking of speed, let's talk about a low priority move. Inside Ice Path, I can pick up the TM for Avalanche. This is a move I hope that I don't have to use, but I am mentioning it now for a reason. Okay, continuing on with Ice Path. At the end of it, there's this annoying puzzle. It's really easy to get through to Blackthorn City, but grabbing the PP up is actually quite tricky. I tried for a little bit to get myself over to it, but I just couldn't figure it out, so whoops, I'm gonna waste this time and just leave without picking it up. Now, let's face Claire. Gyarados is first, I am speed tied with it, but I do have Swords Dance to counter out Intimidate's debuff. Thing is, I go all the way to +3 and I take damage from Dragon Rage down to 37 hit points. Well, 40 after I level up. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to survive a hit from the Kingdra now. Dragonair comes out next. I can one-shot both of these because they have lower speed, but Kingdra is faster. It moves first, hitting Hydro Pump, and Ursaring faints. In the next fight, I try +1. Kingdra moves first, hitting with Smoke Screen. My Return misses, then it attacks with Hydro Pump. I miss again, and with its inaccurate move, Kingdra knocks Ursaring out for a second time. Okay, so if you said Claire was going to be a problem because of speed, you are half correct. This is also being a problem because of accuracy. Hydro Pump could miss and Return could connect. However, I'm still not sure with just +1 if I'm going to one-shot her ace. So let's try it again and see. Hydro Pump takes me down to orange health. This time I connect with Return and it does do enough damage. All that's left is Dragonair and of course it's no problem. But the Kimono girls have caused issues in most of my playthroughs up until now. And for Ursaring, I don't really like its chances here. Umbreon isn't faster, but it's defensive enough to just barely survive one hit from Return. Ursaring hits itself because of Confuse Ray. Dark Pulse takes me down to just above half health, and then I knock out the first evolution. Espeon is next. It's faster, so it hits with Psychic, bringing me down to 41 hit points before I move on to the Flareon. Luckily, this one is free, but Jolteon that's next won't be. It's very fast, it attacks with Thunderbolt, and Ursaring faints. You know, one thing I'm wondering right now, is it possible to black out the Jolteon and then come back in, fighting only the Jolteon and the Vaporeon. I actually haven't tried that out. Turns out I tested it and it isn't possible. You have to fight all of the Kimono Girls in sequence again. So the correct choice here is to black out if you want the experience, or to reset if you want to go as fast as possible. I made it back to the Jolteon. This time it just chooses double team and that gives me the win. Alright, will I one-hit the Vaporeon? And the answer is yes, Ursaring is strong enough. So the Kimono Girls are out of the way. Now we can head into Victory Road and pick up the TM for Earthquake. It's a big upgrade over Dig, but I'm not going to teach it right away. With Lanza essentially being a flying type specialist the first time around, I don't want to go into the fight against him without moveset flexibility. And I think that 80 base power on Dig is good enough, at least for now. Okay, so let's talk about the rival. Sneasel is first, and I can set up here with Swords Dance, but I do get my speed lowered, meaning I'm going to be slower than everything from here on out. I take a lot of damage on the Golbat because I hit myself in confusion. Then Meganium is a one-hit, Kadabra comes out, it disables my return. That's annoying. It attacks with Psybeam, bringing me down to 11 hit points, and Magneton finishes me with Magnet Bomb. Okay, so speed was kind of an issue there, but I'm just going to attack right away and not set up on the Sneasel or on the Golbat. If I finish both of them, then I can set up against the Meganium. It goes for Reflect. I have to two-shot, but it doesn't really matter. From there, Kadabra fails a disable, Feint Attack 1 hits. I can knock out the Magneton in 2 hits using Return. It paralyzes me along the way, and then Ursaring hits itself, going down to red health over 2 turns. Last is Haunter, same scenario as in the Underground, but in this case, Ursaring can't move, Curse inflicts damage, and that's a reset. In the next battle, Meganium poisons me. And this is an advantage because Magneton can't paralyze me now. As a result of the status condition, I'm able to knock out the Haunter and move on to the Elite Four. Okay, did any of you think that Will was going to be a problem because of speed? So his Jinx and his Xatu are faster than Ursaring. When I was personally going through it in my mind, I thought that Will would be the first person that would cause issues because of speed, so I'm holding the Quick Claw for this battle. It activates against the Jinx, so don't get hit by a move like Lovely Kiss. Executor takes some time to knock out, he heals it with a full restore, and then I have to knock it out over 3 more turns. So Ursaring takes damage from Psychic in the process. But then for Slowbro, since I know I'm going to 2-hit and it's probably going to set up Curse, I'm going to choose to go for Swords Dance, increasing my attack. This still just barely does not give me the 1-hit, but Slowbro goes for Amnesia and I knock it out for free. Last is Xatu, and it still has more speed than Ursaring, by only a single point. It chooses Psychic, Ursaring shrugs it off, and knocks out the Psychic-type specialist's final Pokemon. Okay, so Koga's not an issue. Ariados is first, and this Pokemon is terrible. I can just set up Swords Dance here. I go only to +2. I figured this was going to be enough, and then I start my sweep. I use Dig, followed by Return to knock out the Fortress in 2 hits, but that's really the Pokemon that puts up the best fight. The Muk and the Crobat go down to single hits, leaving only his Venomoth, and of course, it's also a one-shot. And speaking of fighting-type Pokemon, Bruno is up next. Hitmontop is really bad. I think it's actually worse in HeartGold than it was in Pokemon Crystal. At least in that game it always attacks with Dig or Quick Attack. Here it just seems to love to use Counter all the time. Actually, it does go for Dig, so that's cool. I set up to +6 though with Swords Dance, and from there I absolutely crush the rest of Bruno's team. I use Dig on the Onix, so I do get hit by Earthquake for double damage, but Onix is so pathetic that it still doesn't do very much. Last is Hitmonchan, and it doesn't have Mach Punch in this game, so it doesn't have priority, and I one-shot. That is one thing I should mention here, just as his final Pokemon faints. The Hitmonlee has 99 speed, and Ursaring at level 55 has exactly 100. So the reason I moved first against it was because of the Quick Claw. Okay, Karen's next. Umbreon's first. It loves setting up double team, so I figured I could get to +6 with Swords Dance, but then I get confused and deal massive damage to myself. Gengar comes in next. It's much faster than Ursaring with 117 speed, and in HeartGold it knows Focus Blast. It's super effective, and Ursaring faints. I decided to chance Confuse Ray less, so I only set up to +2. This is probably going to be enough because Ursaring's attack stat is fantastic. I one-shot the Umbreon, proving my point, and then move on to the Gengar where the Quick Claw activates and Feint Attack gets the 1-hit. Okay, so the rest of this is going to be easy. Houndoom sets up nasty plot, so even though it's faster, it doesn't matter. Murkrow is just barely slower than Ursaring. It goes down to a single return critical hit, and that leaves only Vileplume, which is slow and not bulky enough to survive. Okay, so we've made it to Lance. Let's go through these speed stats. Gyarados 93, Dragonite 1 and 2 107, Aerodactyl 144, Charizard 103, and his ace Dragonite, this is surprising, 90 speed. Yes, it is slower than the first 2 Dragonites. I didn't believe this, so I confirmed it by looking at RAM, and yes, it is the slowest of the Dragonites. I wanted to know exactly why this is happening, so the first 2 Dragonites have a naive nature boosting their speed stat, whereas the final Dragonite has a gentle nature which is neutral for its speed. Okay, so how does Lance go? First of all, Gyarados has Intimidate, so it lowers my attack stat. I'm going to recover this with Swords Dance while I tank hits from Waterfall. At +3 I have roughly half health, so I'm going to knock out the Gyarados now and move on to the remainder of his team. He sends in the Ace Dragonite next, and returns one-shots because it's slower. The next Dragonite though isn't, but it just misses Dragon Rush, so it's free as well. Then the next one does move first. It flinches me with Dragon Rush, leaving Ursaring on only 21 hit points. But the Quick Claw activates, and Dragonite fades. Okay, I think the only way I win is if I get a Quick Claw activation against the Aerodactyl, and somehow I'm able to one-shot. I am faster than the Charizard though, because Ursaring just leveled up to 57, getting to 104 speed. The Charizard has 103, I am 1 faster. Return 1 hits, leaving only Aerodactyl, and the Quick Claw doesn't activate. Aerodactyl knocks Ursaring out. Okay, I've been fighting with Ursaring, I am over setting up, so I'm only going to go to +1 attack and then try to sweep from there. Also notice for this fight that my speed stat is higher at the start. It's now 109. I used 3 rare candies to bring Ursaring up to level 60 so that I can move first against the level 49 Dragonites. With +1, I'm able to one-shot them so I can always bypass Thunder Wave. This leaves me with green health against the Aerodactyl. I don't think there's any way Ursaring loses from here. Aerodactyl, the rock type, chooses Rock Slide, does massive damage because of a critical hit. It flinches Ursaring, then uses Rock Slide again, which doesn't crit, so I don't get knocked out, but it flinches me for a second time in a row. As a result of that, Ursaring loses. I absolutely hate getting luck like that. In the next fight though, it's not going to happen again. This time it chooses Rock Slide and oh my gosh, it crits me. It crits me again. Although, Ursaring does hit with Return, but remember, Lance's Pokemon is Rock type, so it resists this move, and I only have +1. But Ursaring is a bear, and if you didn't know, bears are absolutely terrifying, especially bears that are brown, like grizzly bears. I live close to the mountains, and I never want to see one of these things in my life. They are absolutely terrifying. And in that spirit, Ursaring's Return shreds through the Aerodactyl, knocking it out in a single hit. Lance is defeated. Erica and Sabrina are easy wins, and then I go up against Misty. Yeah, I have to show you this fight. The Lapras goes down to a single hit, but the Starmie moves first because it's fast, 142 speed. Ursaring has 116. As a result, the Starfish uses Ice Beam and freezes Ursaring. This is awful. Ursaring gets hit by Confuse Ray, but immediately thaws out, and it does still hit Return, knocking Starmie out. Okay, that's really good. Quagsire's next, but then I hit myself in confusion. Quagsire sets up with Amnesia, doing absolutely nothing. Ursaring hits itself again. Quagsire uses a second Amnesia, and Ursaring hits itself for a third time. So Misty didn't really defeat me, Ursaring defeated itself. In the next battle I don't get frozen, so I one-shot the Starmie and the Quagsire. By the time I'm facing Surge, I've taught Earthquake. Maybe I should have done this a little bit earlier, I don't really know. Anyways, it's a good move here, I sweep through his team even though I'm paralyzed. I'm not going to mention the other Kanto gym leaders, they're all easy. Now, let's face Blue. I expected to have some problems here because the Executor has been a nightmare in previous runs. And I should mention that Trick Room would actually cause problems for Ursaring, so this is another place where speed is actually working against me, but ironically because Ursaring is faster than all of Blue's Pokemon. Yes, it now has more speed than the Arcanine as well as the Pidgeot. Thing is, the Executor just misses Hypnosis on the first turn, and so I use Return and knock it out in one hit. I don't have to deal with Trick Room. I'm wondering if its AI is selecting that move based off of the Pokemon's base speed that I'm using. It might have saw that Ursaring was slow and then chose not to use Trick Room. I don't know, that's just a hypothesis. Either way, Machamp's next. It's a fighting type, but Return is powerful enough to one-shot now that I have +2. Arcanine intimidates me, but Earthquake still gets the job done. I figured that Rhydon would now be a 2-hit, but I get a critical hit, so it's a one-shot. Gyarados intimidates me, so now I have a neutral attack modifier, but Return is still enough, leaving only Pidgeot, and it's not good. While it does survive and use Whirlwind, delaying my inevitable victory, Ursaring just comes back out and knocks out the bird. Let's head into the league rematches now. This is where speed really starts to become a major liability. Ursaring currently has 126 speed. Will's team is just barely too slow to move first against me in a significant way. The only Pokemon that's going to be moving first is the Xatu with 155 speed. The Jinx, the Grumpig, and the Gardevoir are just barely too slow to be moving first, and of course the Bronzong and the Slowbro never had a chance. I take my time on his lead to set up to +6 attack, and from there things are easy going until I make it to the final Xatu. It moves first, chooses Psychic, does a lot of damage, but not enough for an impact. Time for Koga, one-shot the Skuntank with Earthquake. Toxicroak is next, it does not have Toxic, so I can set up Swords Dance here and then sweep through the rest of his team. Bruno, like before, is going to cause liabilities because of speed, but not due to the Hitmonlee. This time he has Lucario, which has 152 speed. There is no way Ursaring is moving first against it unless I use a substantial amount of rare candies, and I don't want to do that just yet. I need to save them for later into the game. I set up on the Hitmontop to +2 and then to +4, but I think I pushed this a little bit too far. Now it has Close Combat, and when it uses this, it inflicts massive damage. Therefore, when I make it to the Lucario, the only way for Ursaring to win is the Quick Claw, and it doesn't activate. I didn't want this scenario to play out again, so I used rare candies, a total of 14, going up from level 72 to 86, where Ursaring has 154 speed. Now, even if the Hitmontop uses Close Combat on the first turn, which is what happens, with +2 I can just sweep through the rest of Bruno's team, outspeed the Lucario, and one-shot with Earthquake. Karen is a little bit weird. Her Weavile has Low Kick, which can do decent damage on the first turn, so I only set up to +2 before I knock her lead out. So I took extra damage from Night Slash, but from here I outspeed all of her Pokemon, so it doesn't matter. +2 is all I need. I sweep through her remaining Pokemon and move on to Lance. Okay, speed rundown. Salamence, 187, Gyarados, 148, Garchomp, 155, Altaria, 128, Charizard, 161, and Dragonite, 147. Ursaring has 156. Only 2 Pokemon are moving first, Salamence and Charizard. This battle plays out very similarly to everything else that's happened in the playthrough so far. I set up to +3 against the Salamence, and by doing this I'm pushing things a little bit too far. And I don't need this amount of damage against Lance because I'm very over-leveled. I one-shot my way through to the Charizard where it moves first and knocks Ursaring out with a critical hit from Air Slash. So the solution is just set up once on the Salamence, get to +1 attack, and then start my sweep. Dragonite goes down to 1 hit, Garchomp goes down to 1 hit, Charizard attacks, bringing me to red health, but it falls to 1 hit as well. Altaria cannot use Perish Song. That feels so good. This thing has been so awful to me over the last week. I'm glad that it's going down in 1 hit. All that remains is Gyarados, and while it does intimidate Ursaring, it's not enough to prevent the KO. So with Lance defeated for the second time, there is only one trainer remaining in the game. It's time for Red. Pikachu is up first, it outspeeds with Volt Tackle, and it does more than half to Ursaring. Okay, so I chose Swords Dance. I think I just lose unless the Quick Claw activates, and that's exactly what happens. Although my return triggers Pikachu's static, so Ursaring is paralyzed for the following Blastoise. It moves first, hits with Blizzard, but Ursaring just barely survives on 6 hit points, giving me time to use Rest healing to full. But this doesn't matter because Blastoise has Focus Blast. It's now choosing the move to inflict maximum possible damage, and over the next 2 turns, it knocks Ursaring out. Okay, so first turn, it looks like I need to attack the Pikachu right away with Earthquake and knock it out so that it's finished. But then Blastoise comes in and I don't really have a good answer. Earthquake is doing less than half. I guess Blastoise can just miss Focus Blast and then feint to return. Yeah, that's what happens. Venusaur comes in next. It uses Giga Drain, followed by Sludge Bomb, and before Ursaring wakes up, it gets a critical hit, so that is a second loss. Now, I drew your attention to the Quick Claw activation earlier because I'm really hoping that it activates first turn against the Pikachu and I can knock it out without tanking damage from a Volt Tackle. If I have good health remaining for the Blastoise and the Venusaur, maybe if Focus Blast misses, then I'll be able to sweep through the remaining Pokemon on his team without too many issues. In this case, I have to heal on the Venusaur again, and this is just not going to work. So when will the Quick Claw activate on the Pikachu? Not in the next battle, not in the battle after that, not in the battle after that, not in the battle after that. This was so bad that I actually paused my game here and looked up if Volt Tackle had higher priority. Maybe in the first battle he chose Thunderbolt, seeing that it would also have the damage range to knock me out on the second turn. Then the Quick Claw activated and I moved first. Turns out Volt Tackle does not have increased priority. So I continued the battle, trying over and over and over and over again to get the Quick Claw activation. Finally, at long last, it happens, and I knock the Pikachu out, but then static activates. Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous. Obviously, with paralysis, this is not going to happen. Now, I'm going to show you the most painful montage I have ever put on this channel next. This was absolutely ridiculous. I am fishing for a Quick Claw activation against the Pikachu here, and it refuses to happen. Starting in Generation 3 until the present day, Quick Claw has a 20% chance to move first in the priority bracket. That means 1 in 5 attempts against the Pikachu I should be moving first. I'm also moving around the overworld to ensure that my RNG seed is slightly different every time I go into the battle, and even with doing that, here is what happened. The Quick Claw failed to activate 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22 times in a row. Okay, that is the longest amount of numbers I have ever read off on this channel, and I don't think I'm ever going to do something like this again, but I have to continue. I paused the game here. I researched it again, checking to see on multiple different sites if it had lower priority. And no, it does not have better priority. It is the same as return. So I continued. 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, and finally, on number 28, the Quick Claw activates and I knock the Pikachu out turn 1. This time, static does not activate. Okay, let's talk about Quick Feet, which is Ursaring's other ability. I should have gone with Quick Feet. It increases Ursaring's speed stat by 50% whenever it has a non-volatile status condition, and it doesn't lose speed because of paralysis. Imagine getting paralyzed on the Pikachu, increasing my speed, moving first against the rest of Red's Pokemon, and sweeping his team. That would be so much easier than using Guts. And by the way, Guts hasn't really helped me at all during this playthrough. I'm sure I could have intentionally burned or poisoned myself at some point, but usually that's not very good in solo challenges because you take so much passive damage every turn that if you take chip damage from any one of the enemy Pokemon, you usually end up losing. I'm sure it's a fantastic ability in competitive as well as in Nuzlocke, but it's just not really that great in this format. Okay, so Blastoise does some damage to me with Focus Blast while I set up with Swords Dance. Luckily it misses its next attack, so I get to continue with the fight. This is perfect. I have +2 for the Venusaur. Return is able to one-shot. Charizard comes in next. It has 178 speed, so it's faster than Ursaring. I have low health and it knocks me out. What am I gonna do here? Am I just gonna wait for a Quick Claw activation on the Charizard? Well, that's what I'm gonna do. I have to get by the Pikachu again, and I have reset after reset after reset after reset after reset after reset against this thing trying to move first with return. Also, the Blastoise can just be bad using a bunch of Focus Blasts. I'm in the same position I was before against the Charizard. The Quick Claw does not come through for me, and that's that. So I now have a total of 83 faults trying to defeat Red. Most of them have been fairly fast because I'm quickly resetting after not knocking the Pikachu out in one turn, but I think overall I just need a different strategy. Let me quickly make the case for you why I wanted to keep doing this fight over and over again. It looks like stubbornness, but that wasn't what was on my mind. Look down at Ursaring's speed stat. It's 161 and I'm at level 90. If I level up 10 more times to 100, I don't know if that's going to make me faster than the Charizard, which has 178 speed. I would need to get to 179, and that is 18 points away. So, can I earn 18 points of speed over the next 10 levels? Well, let's find out. To do this training, I'm going back to the Elite Four. It's actually quite fast to grind on them because their Pokemon are at very high levels with the rematches. And here against Karen, I want to draw your attention to Ursaring. It's level 91 and it has 163 speed. So it gained 2 points. That's pretty good. Also, look at my moveset. Remember before when I mentioned Avalanche? Yeah, I got this because I need a way to knock out her Spiritomb. With my set for Red, I only have normal type damage, so I'm not able to attack ghost type Pokemon. I know this move has lower priority, but I didn't want to go and grab a Heart Scale. I felt like this would just be faster. Either way, if I do lose here against Karen, I'm just going to black out and do the league again, gaining more experience. At level 93, I have my second loss, and Ursaring's speed stat is 166. Things are not looking good. On the next pass through the league, I defeat Lance. This time, I'm level 96 with 172 speed. I make my way back through the league, losing to Karen again at level 98 with 175 speed. Okay, it actually might be possible. If I end up at 177 speed, I'm gonna lose my mind. That's not going to be the case though, because at level 99 I have 177 speed, so the question is, will it be 178, a speed tie with Charizard, or will I be able to move first at level 100? I fight some Pokemon to level up because I don't want to waste the time with all the extra league members I would have to defeat going through that section of the game. I level to 100 and my speed stat goes to 179. Here's some audio I recorded in the moment right after this happened. Oh my gosh, that is one more than the Charizard. Oh, I didn't think I was gonna make it. Oh, alright. I'm gonna go and face red again now. Okay, so will I get the quick claw activation on the Pikachu? The answer is yes, I do right away. Although static activates, are you kidding me? Blastoise is next. I can knock it out, but from here with the status condition, I'm not gonna move first against Charizard. That said, the Blastoise just misses and I knock it out for free. Against the Venusaur, I easily outspeed and one-shot. Charizard can't knock me out with Flare Blitz, so I take care of it, and now red only has 2 more Pokemon. But I'm paralyzed against the Lapras, and a combination of Blizzard, Hail, and Brine finish Ursaring. Okay, so I continue to lose over and over and over again with Ursaring. Now, I do want to mention that I'm level 100, so I could choose to use Double Team at this point, but I don't really want to. I want to get through this with my Speed Stat and Swords Dance. I don't think I need to fly off the top of Mount Silver and then get the TM. That'll take a lot of time. I think I can just luck through this battle. Blastoise misses a Focus Blast. I get set up with Swords Dance and knock out the turtle. Venusaur falls. Charizard is outsped. One shot with Return. Lapras is next. Without Paralysis, I am able to knock it out and survive the hail damage on 47 HP. But Red's bulkiest Pokemon is last. Can I one-shot the Snorlax with +2? And the answer is yes, of course. Ursaring clocks in with a final time of 3 hours, 29 minutes, and 57 seconds, with 91 faults consisting of 82 resets and 9 blackouts, at level 100 with a game time of 9 hours and 33 minutes. Instead of summarizing this run right now after I've had some time to cool off, I recorded some voiceover right after I finished playing, so here is that clip. Sorry. Oh my gosh, this run was not what I was expecting. I went into it expecting greatness. Ursaring is amazing in Generation 2. And wow, the great have fallen. I'm really glad that I didn't have to use Double Team. I genuinely thought I was gonna have to sit here and use Double Team and Sunny Day together to win. Sunny Day to clear the weather, Double Team to just make the Pikachu miss a bunch, and then Return and maybe Rest, or Swords Dance in the place of Rest. Oh, I am really happy that it ends up that Ursaring with a hardy nature can get to 179 speed, which is 1 more than Red's Charizard. 1 more speed. And that gives it the ability to win, provided it gets good luck against the Pikachu and the Blastoise early into the fight. Wow. And it has to do this at level 100. Obviously, if I came back to do this one again, I am going to select a nature that boosts speed. Probably raise speed, lower special attack. I don't know what nature that is, but that's the nature that I want. Oh my gosh. This Pokemon, if it did not have Scary Face, and instead of Scary Face it had Agility, would be so different. Oh my... The Pikachu also just Volt Tackle. Volt Tackle is such a good move. I can't believe how good this move is. Okay, now back to the pre-recorded voiceover. Okay, so I've already said Ursaring is a disappointment. Where is it ranked in the tier list? So, surprisingly, its results are over 3 hours and 15 minutes, but under 3 hours and 30 minutes, just barely by 3 seconds. So today it earns itself the only placement in the E tier, behind Meganium's results in the D tier, and significantly so. Meganium had a time of 3 hours, 10 minutes, and 57 seconds, which was much better when compared with Ursaring. And Meganium was my second ever playthrough of Pokemon HeartGold. If we compare its game time, which is 9 hours and 51 minutes, to Ursaring's game time of 9 hours and 33 minutes, I'm sure a lot of game time from Meganium could be shaved off with the extra experience I've earned over the last week. Maybe in the future we have to do a silly versus video to re-rank these two, Meganium versus Ursaring, which Pokemon will be better in HeartGold. Although, I do think that Ursaring will absolutely crush this result with its second playthrough. When I know that I have to use Quick Feet against Red, everything is going to be so much easier. Well, we can't leave this series on a disappointment, so we need to do one more run for the final day of Daily December. Tomorrow, I'm going to come back and play HeartGold for one final time this year. I'm going to be playing Mewtwo only, and I expect that that run is going to be very fast and very easy. If you support me on Patreon or through YouTube memberships, thank you so much. It really does make this content possible, and I mean that more than ever at this time of the year. You allow the channel to employ 2 people to help me with video editing and pulling all of this together. It is a colossal undertaking, and I cannot even describe to you the number of hours that I have put in over the last 4 months to make this possible. Not to mention the fact that we have been working on this project for the entire year. Yes, throughout the entire year, we have been working towards making Daily December this awesome for all of you. So I hope it was a really special time of the year for all of you, and I hope you've been entertained. Now, if you've made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you tomorrow for the last video of Daily December.